Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I think we're ready.
So I'm going to call this one to order, 7:33.
Miss Anthony?
Yep.
Present.
Miss Bright, she said she may join in later. Miss Clement?
Present.
Mr. Hayes?
Present.
Miss Shaw?
Present.
Mr. Stevie?
I am here.
We have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Let's get this thing rolling along. Review and approval of last meeting. Get a motion on that.
I think Carol's trying to make a motion. You're on mute.
Sorry. I would like to make a motion to approve the LAR and draft minutes of August 16th. I mean, what was the?
I'm sorry. That was September 6th.
Of September 6th, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Paige. All those in favor? Aye. Raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Any oppositions? Hearing none, Maria, sounds like we have that approved. I'll do my normal call to the audience. Is there anyone on this call currently that isn't associated with the city with this review or depending on the agenda today that would like to have a couple minutes to address the board? Hearing none, item number 4. Let's get this case rolling. Do you have any staff summary?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, this is the existing Bata restaurant on 2 Avenue in downtown. And they're coming back with the proposal of expanding their gross floor area to create a new outdoor service area. The applicant is here and we'll let him do the details. I had come to the DRB, back in 2018, I believe, for the installation of ADA ramps in the front facade on the southern side of the building and also in the rear on the northern side of the building. That was approved. So this is really a modification of the previously approved design package. And this project is a contributor. It contains a contributing structure to the warehouse registered National Historic District. And these will be reviewed by the PRS. Usually goes to the PRS first and then goes to you. But the PRS agendas have been so busy. We wanted to help the project move forward. That's why we brought it to the DRB first. And the PRS is going to review this project. Actually, not next Thursday. They couldn't get quorum. It was just rescheduled to the 25th. That's correct, Michael?
24th.
24th. Okay. And
That's Tuesday.
Okay. Also, I wanted to let you know the city of Tucson has lost their historic preservation officer, Jody Brown. She resigned.
Oh, wow.
So quite suddenly, and so together with Michael Taku and our supervisor Dan Bursak, we've been taking over that section in the department, and with the help of consultants. So I did reach out to one of our design professionals, Richard Fetton, and who provided some initial review.
Oh, I told you, I have a 7:30 meeting, I'm sorry.
Some initial review for this project on behalf of the Historic Preservation Officer. And he just had a couple of comments, and I'm gonna share them with you because I just got his review as well. Just for your benefit. He was, okay with everything. He was just asking to submit, for the applicant to submit details or cut sheets of all proposed lighting to confirm that all outdoor lighting complies with the RNA section in the UDC. The other comment that he had, let me go back to that. He wanted also details on the fence. Okay. He was requesting the applicant to include details, elevations, and renderings of what the pivot garage door will look like from closed, as seen from 7th Avenue. Submit a photo of the metal material to be used on the pivot door to match the existing steel fencing. And those were all his comments. Besides that, he was fine with everything else and is recommending also that the PDSD director approves the project. And that's all I have. And I want to apologize to Richard with everything that's been happening in the office. I failed to send you the appointment on Microsoft Teams, and I'm glad you were able to see it and join in.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. I was waiting for it, and then I signed on yesterday. I'm looking, and then I had to double check when I saw 7:30. I was like, "Well, does she mean 7:30 p.m.?" I've never had a DRB this early before, and then I had to. So I apologize also, everybody. I'm not a morning person, so if I stumble my way through this, I literally just woke up because I worked late last night. So I'll do my best. Maybe it'll go smoother. I'll be calmer.
Thank you, Richard. Anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chair, and Michael Taku is here also to help answer historic preservation questions.
I guess I'll just turn it over to Richard. I'm going to quiz you hard now that I know you're also not a morning person, just like myself. I haven't made it through my first cup of coffee yet, so give us a quick overview of what you guys are doing over there. If you have any plans or elevations, we have a list of like 14 or 15 items that we're gonna run through and see where you land on that. If you've looked at that list, you kind of know where we're going to be looking at what kind of things are under our purview. But yeah, give us a quick overview of what you guys are doing out back there.
And
sure,
Richard, you can share your screen. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And, basically what I did is I just pulled out what I thought were more relevant pages of the hard copy submittal. So I could just give a little clarification, and Maria already covered, stole some of my thunder on the on historic stuff. So that's good. And I'll kind of gloss over that. I'll go a little bit quicker, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now with you guys. And you should be seeing it. And this first slide is just a Google view of kind of a larger context of the area, just for just to give some context. So we're looking at this block here. This is Toole Avenue that runs through here, 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, which has been discontinued, and then just to the north is the Links project, 5th Avenue, and here's where the big dig is going on. And we are in the back part of Bot. I'm going to zoom into this is a more recent street view. That the original one was from the presentation. This is a more recent one. So again, this is the existing Bada restaurant. Is this kind of sort of L-shaped building? The restaurant is in this area. This area in the back is where this project is taking place. There I have kind of demarked in red. And right now it is a just a steel fenced in utility yard that they just used to kind of put old chairs, banquettes, tables. It's just kind of it's a storage yard for them really. And what we want to do, well, let me give you a little more context again. Tool 7th, North Stone. These arrows that I have drawn on here are some exterior photos. The last time I tried to use Google in one of these meetings, Google Street View, it didn't go so well. So I went ahead and captured some photographs to depict. So for standing here looking at the what would end up being looking toward the west, basically looks like this. It's an 8-foot high steel sort of extruded steel deck fence, kind of fading a little bit in paint. And this is the Bada restaurant building that you can see in the background for context. And then if we were to stand out here on the kind of railroad tracks looking towards the south, similar view, same fence kind of wraps around and encloses this whole area. Jumping down, again, as quickly, this is the development zone map. As Maria mentioned, this is contributing. You can see our little slice to the back is technically, I guess, not historic, but the building is, and we're adjacent to the building. Also, as Maria mentioned, this is the previous 2018 RNA HPZ that was primarily, again, for, you can see there's some ramps out front, some ramps in the back. If I kind of pan down to the elevations, there also was a little bit of work, Maria, that was included where they put these roll-up garage doors in. So technically the building was slightly modernized from its original historic area. I'm going to zoom in again to, this is the previously approved RNA. And this area in the back, as Maria mentioned, it was to put these handicap ramps in because the Bada restaurant is about 2.5 feet higher than the existing grade. So these ramps were put in order to provide egress out of space. And then again, the rest of this area is just the utility yard. So we want to activate the space as a part of the restaurant and turning into, we're calling it Bada Garden. It's kind of like a beer garden. You would be having outdoor drinks and there would be cooking and whatnot. And we ultimately want to make it look like this. So we want to kind of green up the space. And this is kind of if you're standing at one of those handicap ramps looking back. So we want to add 2 covered structures. This one in the front will actually be a solid steel deck that we want to have an outdoor grilling station. So we have some food service equipment out here. We want to have an outdoor bar. We want to have outdoor grilling. And then the rest of the space would be seating. And you can see we have another structure in the back that would be like a trellisy type of structure. And then we want to add plantings and tables and chairs. And again, kind of activate this space as a patio that would be kind of serving the restaurant. So I'm going to pull back out again now to the kind of more site plan view of my drawing and kind of zoom in here so that you can kind of get a better idea. I wanted to show you graphically what those looked like, but then in plan again, this is our patio space. I will say, so these ramps in the back, this is actually how they exist today. They really weren't multiple ramps. They ended up just kind of connecting them into one big raised deck and ramp area. This is an existing condition, this ramped area. And then what we want to do is we want to add this larger structure in here is the outdoor seating canopy structure. This area over here is the covered kitchen. And then at the end of the day, and I'll kind of loop back and address when we get to the renderings, the idea that talking about the pivot window, because we would like to have some engagement of the street. We thought that was compatible with the RNA and in the Rio Nuevo area, and also lend itself to our concept. So this red area over here, looking back to what you would be seeing if you're looking in that direction, and we have some renderings. So this is kind of, these renderings were kind of quick, but the idea is that we're keeping the steel fence, but we're modifying it. So we're going to cut this opening here so that you can have access to the kitchen beyond. And then you can see the pivot door is not depicted here, and we'll give some further detailing about that. But the idea is that basically it's the fence. The fence is cut, and then we're building a door so that it can swing up, and people could potentially walk up to this kitchen and they could order some, grilled tacos or whatever the food offering, sort of it's Bada, so it's like a fancy grilled taco, right? And then these doors, we're also taking part of the fence and making it so that we could open these doors up completely. They would be more of a pivot door than this kind of big door. But if we open this up, it would kind of block it. But the idea is that we're trying to create this real, access from the street kind of approach here. And again, looking at this structure, I'm going to jump over next to a more sort of sort of static construction drawing, because again, part of the reason we're here for you guys is because of the concept that from the street, would you see the work that we're doing? And the answer is yes, right? So looking at the construction drawing, here's the 8-foot fence. In the background here, you can see the back of the bottom building, which is at 20 feet tall. The fence is at 8 feet tall, and then you can see our structures. One of them tops out at 16, the other one at 12.3. So the idea that these structures are above the fence, below the existing building, kind of, we put them in there in what we thought was a nice setting, but yes, you will see them from the street. And again, you know, the primary reason that we're here for this DRB. Pulling back a little bit further from the rendering I showed you before, just a little more context. Again, the building, the fence, and then you can start to see our structures, you know, into the back there. And then this idea over here that we need to elaborate on, that you could potentially order from the counter and kind of engage the street a little bit. Jumping back in, my next slide, again, going back into the space. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So again, standing at that kitchen, looking back, the idea that, you know, there would be seating and some possible community kind of things that could happen in the back. If you were to move to the back of the space, look back the other direction, you'll kind of see something like this. Again, we're kind of enclosing it. We're kind of trying to make it feel like you know, a little bit more of a nice garden space, and you can see the kitchen in the back here. I skip back to the kind of plan view. Right here's our approach to landscaping. There's an existing large mesquite tree here that we want to keep. And then we want to add some trees of our own, smaller potted trees, some larger trees, just again to create the feel that you were looking at earlier. We have this existing mesquite. We have these trees would be Chinese pastiche. We have some vines and some things, again, just to kind of green this space up a little bit. You can see this in plan now. Again, here's the kitchen area that we're talking about, access to the street. We have a smoker in here and an outdoor pizza oven that we would be able to make the small outdoor menu that they want to propose here. This next slide, just the general materials that you guys always ask for, right? The building is a stucco finish white paint that we're going to preserve. Our structures would be steel to kind of complement that. There's a little bit of new roofing that you'll see that will also be a white painted steel. And then there's exposed concrete in the lower parts of the building. We do have a fair amount. We're going to use the wood that they use for the cooking as kind of as a design element as well too. So this is primarily the palette that you guys saw in the renderings. Lastly, one of the items that's important to you guys is shade, right? And this is a shade study at the sun at the at the highest time of the year, and most of this area is in shade. You know, at the end of the day, all the trees, all the trellises, the building creates vastly, you know, 84% shade compared to the sidewalk. So that's just a quick rundown of what we want to do, kind of zooming back again to the money shot, you know, of what we want to sell here. And again, just reactivate this space as more what we think this zone is asking for and what the restaurant wants. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to some questions if you guys have any. I know I spoke a little fast, so hopefully not too fast.
How much espresso have you had this morning?
That's just it. I have a 4-shot a 4-shot iced latte to wake me up. Thank you.
See, I'd hate to have a presentation after you've had coffee. Yeah, that was good. Paige, it sounds like you have something you want to jump into, so I'll let you guys have it. It was a good presentation there, Richard. You gave us,
thank you. I
think, most of the info we want to go after in this review. So take it away, Paige.
Oh, I have some questions about the roof, the trellis and the roof. Is that going to be? I'm having a hard time telling. Is one of them going to be open and the other one solid?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the area that you eat is the idea is it's more shade, and we want to grow this vine over it. And then the area where the kitchen is a solid, and that's where I kind of showed that metal deck. It's hard to see there. It looks like wood poking up there, but it would be a metal deck. And we needed this primarily, you know, to cover the kitchen area already. To get this to the health department, it has taken a lot of negotiation to get them to allow us to cook outside, and we need to provide as much protection as we can.
Gotcha. And then I was wondering if you were aware that the Chinese pistache is not really a good container tree because the minimum size is really 25 by 20. And so these are just like, as a landscape designer, like coming up first is just, I don't see how that tree is going to do well in a container in the long term, as well as being rather close to the building. And then if there was a reason for the container versus an in-ground planting.
You know, excuse me, Paige. So I guess I would say that there were some smaller container tree, some smaller containers. So give us a second. These smaller ones were in a container, and these were what we kind of want to use ficus trees. These are kind of small. We like the look of these. And then I guess when I say that these were in a container, these actually are going to be an in-ground tree. These are in containers. These are an in-ground tree, but with a planter box to just kind of build it up. But the idea is that it would be an in-ground tree. And you know, this is just a tree that we have used before. We recently did the Corbett's pickleball project. We used this tree there to create a kind of bosque area that and we liked it for its largely evergreen properties. It can, I guess, get red in the fall a little bit. And we just put it in here for a placeholder, but we would be it's a good idea to propose this because you're right, it is a little bit close to the building. And you know, this landscaping wasn't really regulatory. It was more for our own look. So we were just kind of trying to choose what we thought would make the place look good, and we wouldn't be against pivoting. And it's a good tip that we should look for something maybe that's a little appropriate for scale, you know, even if it is going to be in ground. So I'm going to make some notes about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, how big are the planters?
Sorry. Well, right now they are 4 by 4 foot by 4 foot. Let me go back to that again. The idea would be that it would be a 4 foot by 4 foot planter, whereas in the bottom is open, right? So the potential of the roots could go down. It's really just an enclosure because we wanted to just get some kind of vertical effect, you know, and it just for the look of it is what we were really trying to do, so that it didn't just look like a tree. It looked like kind of like it was like a curated approach. So again, we would be
Sure.
happy to put other types of plants in here. You know, we have the mesquite back here. You know, there's a lot of mesquites and a lot of palo verde that gets used. We were just looking for something that was a little more, you know, dense green. So, you know, any suggestions we'd be happy to entertain.
The Texas olive might be more appropriate in size. Yeah, I'm just concerned, even though I'm not sure what the ground surfacing is in that area. But I understand the roots can go down, but if they're not going to get water beyond the planter, it's not going to really help much.
Sure.
That's all I've got.
Okay.
And I know we have a list to go through, but see if anyone else has comments or questions.
And folks, just to let you know, I can't really see the hand, so we're all just gonna have to jump in and out as we go. So I'm not gonna be calling on people as much today. I'm on a little screen today.
Okay. Carol, your hand is up.
Yes, okay, with access to the outdoor patio area, the handicap access would be through the gates, the folding doors, or whatever you call them.
I'm
What
sorry.
is the
Yeah,
what
go
is the handicap access into the outdoor area?
Yeah, you're talking about so what's happening right now is that there is this is a accessible access. So there's stairs, and then there's this access for egress, and then also to get up into the rest of the restaurant. So at this point in time, without building any more ramps, the idea is that we would be utilizing this existing ramp for accessible access into the building, as you proposed. And then the idea that we wanted to, so while the business is operating these doors in this area here, this is not such a great site diagram. I apologize because the property line is so strong. But the idea that while the restaurant is open, these doors are open. So this whole area right here is completely open, and people would
Okay.
yes, indeed, kind of have to go out into the right of way and come back up and on. We just didn't really want to build any more ramping back here. The area is small, and it seemed like that was we proposed this during city review, and the building official was amenable to it.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question. My other question then is, when the doors are open into the patio area, are they going to impede traffic flow into the existing sidewalk area?
You're talking about this area over here?
Yes.
So, yeah, when the doors are closed, excuse me, when the doors are closed, then part of the door is some smaller kind of man doors that we needed for egress, and you can kind of see one down here. So when the doors are closed, the idea is that that this is a door that would operate with panic hardware, and then this one up to the north as well too. That they're not really showing up so well in the rendering, but it's kind of over in this area here. I'm
Right.
just going to zoom over here again. Yeah. Then these would all be panic doors. Smaller doors that people would be able to egress the space from. And to kind of go back to this plan was kind of a little bit of the floor plan. Go back to this guy again. Yeah, so
Because
then the
in
idea
your-
you can see
in
like kind
your-
of like this. Yeah.
Right.
Go
In
ahead.
your presentation, I understood that those folding doors would be open all the time, but they're
Yeah.
not.
No,
You're
they
gonna
are
be
open.
having,
Oh, well, for security at night, they're open all the time when the restaurant is in service. But at night, when they close it down, then that's kind of
Right.
what this door here would close to secure the place.
so when they're open, when the restaurant is open, will they impede the
Oh,
flow of traffic on the sidewalk?
yeah. So again, this is a little bit confusing. Right now, this show, you're right. If this door was open, I see what you're saying. This would end up being like this, and it would impose, unless it folds all the way back like this. And at this point in time, we definitely don't want this to be in. It's possible that they could swing in. The idea is that they fold all the way back, and or they could be more diagrammatically. We show this as one big door. In reality, it's probably going to be smaller doors, and the idea is that we don't want to impede traffic. No, this is also a really wide sidewalk. It's like 10 to 12 feet. So we think we've got the room, but yes, we don't want to impede the traffic regardless. So that's the idea, is that we would not impede the traffic.
Okay, thank you.
So sticking on the circulation, it looks like the existing concrete walkway that we're seeing in this drawing doesn't match the approved ones that you were showing us earlier. Can we just touch on that? Are you making changes to that, or?
Well, I touched really briefly upon that, but this original, let me jump back to the approved one. This original approved drawing. So there were a lot of liberties taken with the actual construction of this project. This project was built during COVID, and it does not match the existing plans that you guys have. And so exactly, you can see that with the way the accessible ramps work is not what's there right now. It is showed a kind of dogleg ramp, and then discontinuous, and then another ramp down here. But what was actually constructed was what we're looking at in my drawing, where this is what it looks like. This entire area is raised. There's a stair here and a ramp, a single ramp in this direction. This was what was actually constructed and approved somehow in the field, even though it doesn't match the drawing. So this is what you were really looking at.
Okay, and then the other item that I kind of lost in the renderings is the stage. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
So, the renderings were conceptual, and the idea would be that, that in this area here, we could possibly have entertainment. And this is just an open courtyard area that's meant to be just kind of a flex space that people could do whatever they want. We don't really have a stage, per se, a raised stage or any kind of thing like that planned. But the idea, a lot of restaurants do have, outdoor music. This isn't going to be any kind of an entertainment venue, but we wouldn't hate the idea that somebody, with a guitar could maybe sing a few songs once in a while. Again, this seems to have been a component of other outdoor areas that we've done. So we thought we wanted to provide a provision that it could happen conceptually.
Okay, yeah, I guess the raisedness and then how it correlates with the ramp and the existing walkway is kind of where I
Yeah,
was going with that. So flat, yeah,
yeah, no,
okay,
no
I'm
raised.
following.
Early on, we had proposed it during the building review and came up with so many accessible questions came up on how
Hmm.
we had to ramp it and all kinds of things. So we just removed it because it was too much to have a permanent raised stage in there.
Sounds good. So then the other question, and maybe this goes back to the renderings being conceptual, but we have that existing, I think it's 8-foot fence along the north property line. How tall are those proposed planting elements on the inside? This looks like a
So
green wall or something.
yeah, so the idea on the back here, you can see we've got the wall, and the idea is the wall's pretty ugly from both sides. We would repaint the outside, but we want to try to hide as much as possible. So the idea that these planting elements match the height of the wall all the way around. We have trellises. We have these. You can kind of see the idea that we're kind of stacking wood in some of these to kind of make it, to kind of reinforce our kind of grilling theme. And the idea is that, yeah, we want to block that fence out as much as possible. But not
Where,
higher than the fence, I should say.
yeah, gotcha. Okay. Where are you guys in the process for review when it comes to Carol's questions regarding like the right of way and like TRE or something that you may need to
Yeah.
get there?
So it has been a very exhaustive process that we've been running concurrent to this process to obtain the building department's review. We've had four. We went through 4 building department reviews before obtaining final approval. And I'll just kind of cue you guys into some of the I shouldn't say issues, but challenges. So one of them was that these structures are right on the property line, right? So there's even though the rest of the building, it is indeed also on the property line as a 0 setback, intercity lot line. This new area would potentially be upheld to setbacks that we've had to work through with zoning, and ultimately becomes a part of this approval that you guys are looking at. Oftentimes, right, these intercity projects, if we were, would indeed enable us to build on the property line. So that's one of the things that we've had to work to. Also, from a building code perspective and a fire perspective, these structures don't want to be right on the property line. So we went through with the fire department. We sprinkled these outdoor structures, are fire sprinklered, which is something that oftentimes doesn't happen. But we've sprinkled these fire structures to satisfy the fire department, and then also had to get a building code variance in order to have these structures right on the edge, because there's no activity and no adjacent ideas that there wouldn't ever be any adjacent neighbors affected by our structures being right on the property. So at the end of the day, we've gone through those. Carol mentioned exiting situations to maintain the proper safety exiting, accessibility to the interior again, how to utilize this existing ramp. So we have building approval from a constructability standpoint. And we have general, it is in, we've had to submit a development plan because this was a change of use, which we didn't realize that this yard wasn't the same use, but it wasn't. So we had a development plan that has gone through 1 review. And then the only comments that came back were regarding this RNA, would be this DRB, the issues of the changing of the use and also the location of the structures and those kinds of issues. The right of way, that nobody had any problems with any of that stuff. Again, we've had to work through a lot of obstacle or hurdles, I guess I should say, to all the technical portions of it. But we're pretty far along in that process. I think at this point in time, what we'll be looking for was approval from you guys for the use, and also the locations of the structures and whatnot, so that the development plan could then gain its approval. Those were the only issues that the development plan had. Well, one other thing I will say, we did have some originally some parking issues, which were resolved by this being in the downtown core and us having parking garages within 250 feet that we could utilize. So the parking issues, again, were all kind of handled. And at this point in time, again, it comes down to the development plan. The zoning wants your guys' blessing for the use change.
Well, the use really matches what's kind of going on across the street at Borderlands of having this outdoor patio space. So I think it's a really nice compliment.
Yeah, we thought that it was too, but again, as far as a technical perspective, it's a different use than
Right.
what it was, right? So yeah, we thought that it did too.
It
I
fits
don't have
within the
any,
current context, I guess I would say, of
and we
the
thought
area.
we thought as well too, going back to my my aerial my Google view, right? And that's what Paige was mentioning. Everybody who's not familiar with this is Borderlands, and they have an outdoor kind of component. And then we thought that ours would kind of complement that. And with the doors being open, there would be a little bit of maybe a synergy sort of between the two. At least you could see what was happening over here, and this street, which has been blocked off now, right? Could it's still a street. You can drive and park here, but the idea that this could become a little node maybe.
It'd be really great to do some pavement painting. Just saying.
No, that we love that kind of stuff at Force, and we propose it all the time, and we don't know how that would come up, but yeah, this area would be really nice to enhance this a little more, because as you know, it's kind of it's an odd parking situation in here, but it would be nice to improve this whole area.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you necessarily, but do you know I believe they're making a connection to the aviation bikeway through there. Is that right?
That's something I don't know. So, we worked on the Corbett's project, which was right across the street, and I had looked at this bikeway in on both sides for a long time, but I don't really know what's happening here. You're saying you think that there might be something across these railroad tracks or through it or something to get us from here to there.
Yeah, but yeah, don't quote me. I'm not the expert.
I heard that too, Grace. But I can't recall.
It'd be nice though.
From who?
It was from me, Paige.
Yes, you were the one.
When we were working on those Tool Avenue concepts, we got the Barraza Aviation final approved plans, and those show the vehicle traffic on 7th being terminated and pedestrian and bike only crossing the tracks onto 7th Avenue through I can't remember if it's signalized or I think it's just pedestrian signals. So it's a small crossing, kind of like they have those ones in Flagstaff on the sidewalks. But we'll see if how that actually develops if it ever gets built. Dealing with the railroads, usually a multi-year process. So, but yes, the plans I've seen that were approved for Barraza roadway improvements show that condition. And I have a couple questions for you, Richard.
Sure.
Just to clarify, the existing fence and fencing material that currently encloses this courtyard are proposed to remain and just be modified and repainted, I heard you say? Yeah, that's the idea. Again, you can kind of see a little bit here. You can see the fence and its kind of massive shadow. And then at the end of the day, yes, is that we kind of wanted to, since it's already there, and we were just trying to kind of take it and repaint it, and then by poking the hole in here and making this a little more accessible, we just thought we could turn it into a part of our project actually. Sure. So that was kind of what we wanted to do, right? So kind of contextually, that area is going to remain very visually similar to what it is now, other than what's happening inside the fence. That's the intent, exactly. Okay. Yes. And I think this view is a good view for even the question Carol was asking about, the exit of your access ramp from the building kind of terminates out into the sidewalk. So if you see that, Carol, the sidewalk's paved all the way to curb. There's no kind of planting strip. But I do have a bit of a concern, and this is a great angle for it, that that ramp doesn't show a gate or any type of enclosure or closing device on it at all in any of your renderings or drawings. So I wonder about security on that, and or what the plans are for that piece of the facade and of this fencing. And if you're on that ramp coming down, I'm concerned a bit that it terminates, and it doesn't terminate onto a flat landing per code. You would end up coming down this ramp and then continuing down a driveway apron to the street.
Right. So
has that been addressed by city code at all, or city reviewers at all, of like requiring any curb and sidewalk modifications in this area?
Yeah, so I don't have it handy for this in this presentation, but this almost all the time that we go into these projects, in my experience, the city asks us to close up abandoned aprons. And this was not asked for on this project, but we have included this in our development plan to remove this apron, to basically continue the curb here and to pour back so that this is a level landing. And that would be part of our project. There's some, in this street view, it looks like the sidewalk does not continue past here. And we don't right now have any call out to pour that back, but we could. But we definitely want to mitigate this area here.
Well, you definitely have to.
Yeah.
You definitely have to pour out that sidewalk. You're providing a pedestrian walk-up window right in that zone that's dirt now. So I think you guys need to show some sort of, I mean, if you're providing a pedestrian movement to that space, it needs to have some sort of surfacing to allow that pedestrian movement. And it needs to allow at least one spot that would be handicapped accessible for that exterior walk-up window, in my opinion.
And we would like to finish this off as long as we had approval to work within the right of way. We would like to continue this walk all the way to the edge of our property. That would be our intent.
Well, you guys are it sounds like you have that approval to do work in the right of way if you're going to replace this driveway apron.
Well, the development plan hasn't been approved. So providing, I'm assuming that, again, we took the initiative because I thought it would be something that was asked of us. So
sure. But that's shown on your development plan that's currently in review.
That's exactly correct. Yes. Okay. So when that's approved, then yes, we would have the approval to work in this right away. You're correct.
Okay. I would recommend that you guys, try to push as much concrete as you can in this space all the way to property line. Just, I know client's not going to like that extra, $8,000 worth of paving, but I think they can afford it. It would be something I'd highly recommend for as we move through our reviews.
Right. I think in a lot of my drawings, again, as I've been out here a million times, but I don't, I start to forget what's here. I think until this actual meeting, I thought this was more paved than it actually was. So at the end of the idea, we want this to be a concrete area, so that this entire, I don't have a good photograph, but it's continuous, as you head to the south, it's solid, like 10 to 12 feet. It's really wide, and we want the same, the same moving forward. So yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big move or a big ask on this project. I think that's probably within your guys' intent anyway. It's just a detail that might be not shown well on the plans we have currently in front of us.
Sure.
But those were my two questions. Oh, actually, did you address how the ramp itself is?
Yeah,
there's no door or anything shown on any of your plans. Does that have a fence gate?
So this was a problem that we had during the development review. So the original approved plan like this works great, but because the way that they ended up just terminating the ramp right here on the property line, we don't have a landing on our property. So that ended up being a problem during building review because, we need a landing here. Aside from this being a level surface, there's no landing onto our property. And so at this point in time, I'm going to kind of jump back to that one kind of, this is kind of the best floor plan that I have. At this point in time, we removed the door because we couldn't provide a line. So this was fully approved, the way that it was. It's incorrect, right, by code. So we removed that from a security issue. And right now we need to solve this issue because we need to provide security for this place. And we're looking at possibly a variance to allow the landing to be on the right of way from the building official. We don't have to, from a code perspective, provide security. We want to, and we need to. At this point in time, we're talking about putting a door further in or something. We have not, there's not a good solution for that. This is a challenging site. So right now we've shown it as not being there. And we haven't really solved for that exactly, Chris.
Just you could, just from looking at tight sites, think of it like a bathroom, put a pocket door on that thing into
Yeah.
that electrical area.
Gosh, that's a great idea, actually. We had never even thought about it. Yeah,
Or
we
a
could
double,
use it.
you could
Yeah.
do a double fold that you fold it back once for the ramp and then twice to get into electric. Might be a good
Right.
move for you guys.
Yeah, no, I hadn't even thought about that. That's
But
a great solution.
You most definitely need to secure that at that fence line.
Right.
Just knowing the nighttime activity in this area, you guys are going to have all kinds of problems.
Sure.
I do appreciate the porosity you're trying to achieve in here, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have some challenges, I think. Carol, did you have an additional comments? You had your hand up for a minute.
Yes, I do. Backing up to,
I think I'm
Oh.
done with my stuff. So I think you can take it, Carol, if you have anything additional.
thank you, Chris. Backing up to Paige's concern about the species of the red push pistache. I agree with her, Chinese pistache, either one, sorry. I have thought of 3 species that are Sonoran Desert natives. Acacia burlandii, which is Guaillo is the common name, Eisenhardia orthocarpa, which is kidney wood, and the Lysoloma, what's the genus for Lysoloma, the fern tree? You guys help me out. Okay, well, I thought of those trees.
Watsoni?
I'm going through my file cabinet in my head there, Carol. I'll get there in a minute.
Acacia burlandii, Eisenhardia orthocopter, and Lysoloma. I can't remember, but it's the fern tree. These are all medium-sized trees, Sonoran Desert natives, and bipinnates. So I think they would do well in those bottomless 4x4 planters. Do you, in talking about the link of the
London, will you print out one more 1x17 of the plan and then?
Sorry.
It's Watsoni, I think, Lysoloma Watsoni.
Okay, thank you. The bike, talking about the connection to the bike trail, do you have bike parking on your building?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have stayed where I was. So, I don't have the development plan sheet, this went in before the development plan. But we do have bike parking, and the development plan. What we've ended up doing is, we have short-term bike parking that we've put in the back of the project just because we have area. And then we have long-term bike parking that's inside this area here that we have, via bike racks. For the employees. So we focused all the bike parking in this kind of general area. So this is a long way for a person to push a bike in, but it was the most open area that we have. And so our development plan depicts the bike parking in these 2 areas.
Seems a long ways from the bike path.
Well, there's also there was existing bike parking that I don't know if it shows up in this drawing. So there's existing bike parking that is out in this area for the restaurant. That is, and I don't remember how much it was. There's a fair amount of it. We were required to provide the bike parking for just this area, which was only 2 extra spaces. And there's like 4 or 5 or 6 over here that we thought really would be the majority of the use for the people who were coming to the restaurant in this area. We thought they would be largely using this area. Which is like right off the street and seemed like a natural place for biking, which was the original restaurant's biking. That was their provision and their development plan.
I'm seeing 2 snazzy bike racks
in this area
on 7th. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a street view from 22, so I don't know if more have been installed since. There you go.
Yeah. So I don't.
That's technically that's technically 4 bike
right.
parking.
You're right.
So. Welcome to business friendly Tucson.
But
Carol, you have anything else?
Oh, in your renderings, did I see hints of what would be a vegetative green wall along that same elevation that the firewood wall is on? What's happening there? Or is that just part of a rendering that is no longer applicable?
No, we're trying to make a green wall, and the idea would be, you can sort of see the fence peeking through here, that we would have,
Wait,
we
wait,
have
wait,
in a
wait,
plan.
wait, you need to share your screen, please.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
don't see it. Thank you.
My screen
Yeah.
got lost.
Maria
Thank you, Richard.
Maria stole your screen for a minute there, Richard.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so the idea would be that you can see we have, and these show up in the plan and in our development plan and in our planting plans, that we have a planter with vines that we're encouraging to grow up a mesh, and then you can sort of see the fence sort of peeking through here. And these are just vines, that we have
Okay.
proposed on there. We have a couple. That would be the idea, is to try to make this as green as we can, is the idea.
Okay, good. Those are all my questions right now. Thank you.
Quick question for you, of the different, the trees, I'm not terribly familiar with the 4 trees you guys mentioned. Any of those that would be the greenest and the fullest of the ones that you guys recommended? That was originally why we threw that pastiche in there, because it was, thick and green. I know what the acacia looks like. That can be a little bit sparse. Of the other ones that you guys recommended.
Of the 3 I recommended, I would go with the kidney wood.
The
And it
okay.
doesn't have thorns, which is a nice thing for close contact space. And it's pretty much evergreen depending on the coldness of the winter.
Gotcha. No, that's
And
all
it's
that.
a lovely tree, little puffball flowers that attract butterflies.
Perfect. That's exactly what we want.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of trees I think that would fit that use there, Richard. It's just that I think Paige's comments were relevant, and just from a health standpoint there, and that pistache is going to be kind of a slower grower for this size space you guys wanted to fill in. I think looking through most of our criterion that we have, I think you guys are hitting most of that. The comment from Richard about lighting. Is there exterior lighting in this space, and is there any exterior lighting on the outside of that fencing, or any lighting that's going to light up the street frontage?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen real quick with you guys. So again, kind of looking at the actually, let me go to sorry, to this guy right here. This is a better view. So what we've got right now, so this is lit with there's currently existing lighting which runs along the perimeter of the building, which shines into the space that is security lighting that is existing, that we're keeping. And then we are adding lighting to the kitchen needs lighting. And so this area, and then also the trellis gets a full cutoff fixture that I could provide to you guys that we've used. We used outdoor. Again, we borrowed some elements from the Corbett project that we had recently approved. So we have fixtures hanging in this area and in this area that are full cutoff fixtures that shine down, that light the space. And then we have a little bit of, again, we needed some egress lighting over here that we had to add from a regulatory perspective. But at the end of the day, all some existing lighting we're keeping, and we have just enough for security. And overall, we're trying to minimize the lighting of this place. We want it to be kind of dark at night. But we also had to satisfy a certain illumination for the health department. So we're walking kind of a fine line to do that, and then also achieve the lighting level that we want.
So in summary of that, most of your lighting's integrated into those structures.
Exactly.
Integrated lighting. Okay.
Exactly, correct.
I don't know, the rest of you guys, do we need to run through all the points? I'm feeling like I haven't found much on this proposal that is contrary to items we typically review or have challenges with.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, we have our new DRB member present.
Oh, maybe we should go
KK.
through them then, just for an education standpoint for the new guy.
Oh, bro.
Oh, you throw me under the bus.
Oh, you're definitely making the motion. Oh, you are definitely making the motion. Let's see how many conditions we can add to the motion for him to remember.
Oh,
gosh.
But yeah, let's run through those real quick. I'm running a little short on time. I may need to jump off here in a few minutes to do some family obligations, but I think we can run through these very quickly. And this is very odd to me that we're having to run through all this for a building addition as though we're looking at it as a new building. So a lot of this stuff isn't.
I spent a good amount of time reading it, and with you guys in my first review, but I didn't see any issues, and I think this is a good place for Tucson. And all of your questions were some of my questions, so I didn't really have anything to add there. So, yeah, but
so I'm gonna run through. I'm
following
these
your lead.
Quick. Yeah, I'm gonna run through these real quick, and when we get to the end, we may have a motion. But Carol, did you have something? I hear you.
No, I'm concerned about the gate.
Yeah.
Thing on 7th Avenue. That's my big concern.
Yeah.
That whole it's messy in there. It's messy in there.
So I'm going to run through these. We're scale. This isn't a new building, and the scale is, in my opinion, sticking with the existing scale because the fencing is staying the same. I don't think the overhead structures are any bigger than the existing building. It's not new construction. Number 3, it's not new construction. In my opinion, unless if anyone disagrees or has a point on any of these, to speak up, please. Number 4, building frontage. That's really the storefront of this building, which this is the back of the house. And you're even still doing that. You're providing some sort of peekaboo windows into this space. So good for you for even thinking of doing that.
And Mr. Chair, if I may mention here, items 2 and 3, they are applicable because it's new construction. They're proposing new structures.
They're considering the Ramada structures new construction, right?
Correct.
And a change of use from a patio to a patio.
Correct.
Okay.
I would say they're consistent with the prevailing setback, though, being on the property line with the new structure and right on the property line with the building. As far as number 2.
Everything else in here is a 0 lot line, so having any setback, I would have pushed on that and said 0 setback for all of your structures, but looks like you're getting some relief from setback requirements anyway. Which would have been like 10-12 feet or something.
And Richard, double check with zoning. I don't think you need to go to the Board of Adjustment for setback reduction since you're going through the RNA, and the RNA provides for, setbacks if reductions if approved by the PDSD director.
That was actually the comment, if I may, real quick. We had a zoning comment that said exactly what Chris said, that we had 12 to 15 foot setbacks, but that would be relieved by the RNA. So they already
I'm good with the setbacks you have shown. Actually, I think it's nice to have it set in just a little bit, even from a security standpoint, to make it a little harder to use the fence as a climbing point to get on top of that, to get on top of your building. That would be something I might want to add to your list of things to just double check before you build it. Make sure someone's not going to be able to use that exterior fence to get on top of that Because I have a feeling that one over the kitchen has got to have a burn rate and probably a fire. You got to have a weight load, live load of being able to have a firefighter get on top of that roof.
That wasn't brought up, but that's certainly a thing. It's definitely going to be a strong enough roof, but yes, that seems like it could be an issue.
I've had to have that requirement for a standalone Ramada in the middle of a city park, so I've always wondered why I had to have fire ratings on something that was in the middle of nowhere. But that's an aside. I think we're good on 2. Number 3, scale defining architectural elements and details. Windows, doors. That's really for a walled structure, but I think I'm actually liking that those structures have a little bit of a tilt to them and that they oppose each other, that they're not the same, because everything in the area is kind of flat roofed to have a little bit of architectural fun in the back there and create some interest.
And the window punch in that fence will be
The window
nice.
punch in that fence. That fence is going to be.
That'd be
That's going to
good.
be. I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Get my $14 taco.
Yeah.
We're not really. I think of though 50 feet, we don't even meet 50 feet for the overall distance. But even then, you have an articulation with that punch out window. I think that would create enough articulation in that. Pedestrian scaled, down shielded, glare controlled lighting. I think the exterior lighting on the actual building is security lighting and does this feature in your lighting for this this element is probably mostly interior. I think if we're going to add one condition to this, now that I'm thinking about lighting, because I asked that question earlier, if you're having that walk-up window, I think you're going to have to provide some lighting exterior to that space to light the ground and or make sure you had the right amount of lighting in that space for security and for just, so you may need to add 1 or 2 light fixtures at that pop window to activate that space.
Right. That's something I hadn't thought about, but that makes sense. Yes.
Maybe a barn light or something on a pole. I'm not sure if the street, there's a pole there, if that street light has street lighting on it, but I don't know if you can add that to your lumen count, the city provided street light. But I think we need to recommend you have investigate adding a light at that walk-up window. Shade on sidewalks. I think you covered that, or vehicle parking. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I do want to investigate this shade study a little bit if we could take a look at that one again. It seems like there's some shade being hauled out along the southeast sidewalk, and I'm just not sure where that is coming from.
Richard, you're muted, and feel free to share your
I'm
screen
sorry.
again.
Yeah, the entire south sidewalk is covered. That's where that was coming from. It's a weird situation where the building, that somehow the sidewalk, the right of way is under the building.
Sure, along Tool. I meant along 7th Avenue. Is where
along 7th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me share my screen again with you guys. So, 1 second. Right. So the idea was that based on our calculations during the summer solstice, at 1:50 p.m. the sun is not exactly overhead, and we thought we calculated that this building, which is 20 feet high, was going to throw shade along this sidewalk, and then the little piece of our 8-foot fence was going to throw shade in that direction. That was how we calculated it when we did this. And even, at the end of the day, it was just such a high number that we didn't really spend a lot of time. Even if this was less than that, it still seemed like we would be more than 50%. In the way that we understood that we're providing that this whole area around the outside here is our sidewalk, and then we just looked at all the shade from the whole thing, and we did this quick calc because we weren't on the margins. That's what we thought at any rate.
Yeah, I did have a question about the diagram that we're looking at here. So when we look at the shade requirements internal to the property, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, other members of the board, I think is irrelevant. We're only looking at the
Oh, okay.
sidewalks. So I just wanted to know if there was a way to pull that sidewalk number out, and maybe we're still, over 50, that's totally fine, but just to make sure that we're understanding if the requirements are being met.
Yeah, and why wasn't the shade study done at noon as per code?
I thought that the code is a summer solstice, which somehow I had somebody helping me with this exhibit. I apologize, but that we looked up the summer solstice and I thought that it was not at noon on June 20th, but this could be a little bit off. We could certainly revise this shade study. And then the case would be then if so that I guess then Paige, then I would have to, I'm glad you illuminated me that all these IIDs I've done, I have included our inside as well, because I thought that was relevant. But if we're only looking at the outside, then at the end of the day, if we didn't meet the 50%, then we would have to go out into the right of way and add trees or something, right? That would be what you guys would be alluding to.
I think Grace is right. It does say
So
50% of the building frontage.
Yeah.
oh, wouldn't that have been already addressed in this approved 2018 HPZ, since we're not doing anything to the outside of the building at all? Wouldn't if this was approved, wouldn't that potentially be already looked at, or maybe not?
So, Mr. Chair, Ms. Shaw, members of the DRB, the UDC calls for the shade. Let me share my screen. So there's two sections, right? One, it says adequate shade shall be provided for sidewalks and pedestrian pathways using shade structure or vegetation were permitted by the city. So that's one section, right, of the code. And then there's
Yeah.
the section that talks about the specific percentage. So Richard, the code was amended, I don't know, a couple of years ago to modify this. So instead of 2 p.m. now it's 12 p.m. on June
good.
21st. And yeah, it says 50% of all sidewalks and pedestrian pathways. So it's not just the sidewalks along the right of way, it's also any other pedestrian pathways that may be provided within the project.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'd say if your graphic is 150 versus noon on that time of year, probably is a very marginal difference in a modeling study, in my opinion. And it visually, I would say that 50% of that sidewalk on the south and east sides, even if we were just going to isolate to the pedestrian right away, I'd say it's easily 50% of those spaces are covered in shade. And it, I might lean into even the intent that majority of the space is covered by mechanical shade, that they're providing additional shade to this use area that is not provided currently. Is, I don't know, that's a win in my book for just our overall shade in climate.
No, I totally agree. And I think that this activation is great too. I just want to make sure that we're applying the code, evenly to all the projects.
Correct.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, I will be requesting the applicant to revise this shade study and to make sure that the shade shown is provided for 12 p.m. That it meets the 50%.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got here.
Where are we gonna put that east elevation, resolving the ramp end and the folding doors and impeding sidewalk? Does that come into number 10, maybe? Sort of? I don't know where that would really fit in our criteria. Conflicts with pedestrians and bicycles?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Clement, members of the DRB, I just want to make sure that before we jump to 10, that the DRB is comfortable. I don't think DRB has gone through these other items 7 through 9.
7 doesn't seem to.
Yeah, it's Maria. I'm gonna
Is this
get
the front door?
a little
Okay.
into this, and that some of these things we have to review for projects like this are not necessarily applicable the way they're written, and that this back patio is being considered a separate project than the building itself is difficult to, in my opinion, to look at some of these and say, well, vehicular access, well, we're just doing a back patio, you know, does it really require additional parking? Does the modifications to the front door, well, this isn't the front door, this is a back access patio, so it's really an exit access, really. Some of these things are difficult for us to, I don't know, in my opinion, to really dial in on yes or no. So I'm inclined to say they're not applicable to this case, and that they're making their effort, and that this is already an approved structure. I mean, it's an operating restaurant.
Yeah, just since you guys were going one by one, I just wanted to make sure that all DRB
Right,
members were aware of those. Mm-hmm.
We've had this come up on a couple different cases. So if I feel like I'm blazing past one, it's usually that coming from that context where it may be a difficult one to say that it's even applicable to this project. Since we're going through them, so we did vehicular parking areas minimize. Well, there's parking, adjacent street parking. There's existing bike parking. There's actually additional bike parking inside for employees for long-term parking, which is kind of cool. We went over shade.
Which Maria's gonna ask them to resubmit, right?
Or to make a modification on their final development plan submittal.
Yeah.
The colors are, holding with the white and with the existing fence remaining. There's, no bright fuchsia going on here.
Fluorescent green.
New buildings shall use materials, patterns, elements relate to traditional context of the downtown area. I guess we're considering those Ramadas new buildings or new structures. This structure, in my review of it or look at it, is a pretty contemporary looking, but it has just from the shapes and forms of it, it's a clean line. Doesn't have a lot of articulation, so the clean lines of this kind of fits in that realm. Grace, do you have any opinions on that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree.
The 24-hour street level activity, really, that's a use-based criterion. But I think if we add a condition or a comment onto our motion that some lighting is provided to light up the sidewalk space, I think that would be enough. I think you guys do need to do some work on making sure there's lighting on that sidewalk outside there, especially if that handicap ramp comes down and has to egress out and then come back in. You need to have that space lit. and then the walk-up counter. So I think I'd be okay with, I don't know, approving all this if we
With
make a
conditions.
provision, yeah, that they have, that they provide some sort of exterior lighting to that sidewalk area.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Chris, but I did want to note there is a light attached to a pole, kind of at the end of the right of way there.
Yeah,
You
the
scroll
city of
down.
Tucson, like a city of Tucson light, or
Yeah, so there is some area lighting already for the general street, which I think is helpful, but I agree that, yeah, there you go. Whoop,
yeah,
boop. And
yeah,
so
it's that
that's
one right
right
there.
over that street, so that's gonna be good for vehicular and pedestrian and bike safety, but I do agree that additional lighting at that window would be helpful
Yeah, I think the thing that's
or
catching
needed.
that is pedestrian scaled lighting.
Right.
So that's the light we're looking at is not pedestrian scaled, and it's not maintained by this entity. You'd be dependent on the city to make sure that that light bulb stays operational. I don't know how that goes. Here's your one there, Carol, number 15.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So number 15 needs a comment from us too, of making sure that doors and that if any alterations to that existing sidewalk outside are made, that they remain 100%
Yeah.
accessible, universally accessible.
Right, and resolution of the ramp end, so it doesn't dump onto the right of way, which is a sloped sidewalk, and the folding doors impeding sidewalk, there needs to be a clearer resolution of what the folding doors really will do so that they fold back, not to impede circulation.
Yeah, or that there's adequate additional paving provided to, even if they do impede that first few feet, that there's definitely a universally accessible space there that doesn't impede flow of
I
traffic,
think,
right?
Chris, I think it needs to go further than that, because when you look at the pictures, there's telephone poles, there are guy wires coming down, there are signage posts. It gets messy in there. It's like a lot of stuff going on in a small space. I think we
There
should
is.
request full fold back, or however we want to word it, so that it is not something that is allowed to stick out.
Yeah, I may push back on that. I agree with the context of where you're going, Carol, but I think we can't necessarily dictate how they solve that, but they need to maintain
Okay.
a universally accessible path through that zone, whether they can't, if they want to pay to move the telephone poles, that's up to them too. Or move those power poles, they could do that as an option, so how they resolve it is up to them, but we need to ensure that there's a universally accessible pathway through there. That's public, the public universally accessible pathway.
Yeah. Can I jump in real quick, Chris, because you've got it up right here. In projects in the past, we have been required to maintain 6 feet, and that's what's showing up on the screen right here. And so we have provided that we have a 6-foot clear. If we're providing, like sometimes we have, seating that comes out onto the street via TRE. We've always been maintaining 6 feet. So that feels like if we provide 6 feet, then that feels like that would meet your code standards. I mean, more is better, I know, but that's the code.
That's fine. 6 feet is good for me, but I'm wondering, I would like to see the 6 feet with all the signage and the telephone poles in place shown.
Yeah. I think, Carol, the plan we're looking at as part of this presentation isn't their formal development plan that's being presented to the city for zoning review. I think that this definitely needs to be a comment or a condition we add, that the verification of exterior within the right of way conditions to make sure that universally accessible path is maintained of 6 feet. It's not shown on our. I do entertain. Is this something you guys are, Carol, you stuck on this one enough that you want to see that plan? Bring them back.
I'm sitting the fence on it. It seems like a tight area, and the fact that their ramp dumps into the right of way. And I understand they're gonna raise the curb so it's not a sloped area, but I don't know, it seems an area that is
tight.
unresolved and
It's tight.
needs further thought. Yeah, it is tight, and it could become, I don't
Because
know.
this drawing we're looking at looks like it's probably from your DP. It has all the doors closed, right? So it's a closed door
Yeah.
condition. So in an open door condition, that's different than a closed door condition.
Nor does it have the little signs. I think it shows the
Yeah.
big 2 telephone poles, but it doesn't have all the little signs in there.
Yeah, the no parking sign or whatever.
Right, whatever it is.
We're happy to provide this, but I think I think it's going to be very easy to get 6 feet out of this.
Okay.
I mean, this thing is like 12 feet, I mean, really, we're happy to provide whatever you guys need. I mean, I don't have a dimension on this drawing, but you can see the apron is 12 feet wide, just for reference. Oh, I do there. So it's 12.22 feet. So
yeah,
I can have 6 feet worth of obstructions and maintain 6 feet. And that seems pretty doable. And I can show a nice little path carving through there, and I can make the doors fold back. We can do whatever you guys need. I'm fine for that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
right.
not, I think it's achievable.
You're losing like 2 feet, maybe at the most, on those poles, right? Like off of the face of curb, you probably get about 2
Those
feet, 2.5,
poles,
maybe.
maybe 3
most.
feet to outside of pole.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty comfortable with this space. It's tight, but I think Richard, in my opinion, your point's taken. I think there's room to play in here, and Carol, I think a comment or a condition on ours might be appropriate at this time, just to, instead of bringing them back. I'm okay with that.
Okay, yeah.
I think then put it on zoning to make sure that they, that it passes on the DP, right?
So it would, just for my edification, it would be shown on the final set of approved plans that the signs are there and the doors are such that that there is a 6 foot clear universal access through there, correct? Will that be shown somewhere?
I would think that would be a condition we could add, that is shown on the development plan.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, if we add conditions or things, that's stuff that zoning looks at, and when they're doing their reviews, it's straight development code, and then if there's any conditions from a board or from us, those are additional conditions that are basically additions to code. So if we add on there, universal path needs to be shown, along 7th Avenue, that's a condition that before they can get their permit for approved permits, that has to be shown on the development plan, correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, yeah, the decision notice issued by the PDSD director, should she choose to include that condition. Yeah, that's something that not only zoning would have to look at, I will need to take a look at. Design is part of the workflow, so it will have to come to me for approval, and I will be asking also the applicant to revise the design package to show the clearance for pedestrians when the doors are open.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, that's the condition we're looking to have added to the plans. So
that's right. That sounds
so
good to me.
even before I take it to the PDSD director for her decision, I will be asking the applicant to demonstrate that on the plans.
So Hayes, you're writing this stuff down, right? Because you're going to make the motion.
Who?
Aid.
Aid.
Are we going to specify what was discussed earlier, that curb is going to, like, that driveway is going to basically be altered so it's level across there?
I think that's what that keynote 17 is.
Yeah, I think
it's already on the development plan to do that.
Okay.
And it just wasn't on the graphic plans that we were looking at. That was we were kind of looking at development plan light.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's okay.
So
confusing.
These are the first comments from the development plan that you guys, that are required for this submittal. But then since then, I'm already on my third development plan submittal, and these comments came back and were addressed, and not, you guys weren't privy to that drawing. Typically,
not?
the 6 foot on the sidewalk is also a part of the general regulatory code review. That's a comment I would get on every development plan that I work on. It's, you guys are just stipulating more clarification to it, but that is also a requirement that the city, when you're talking about the reviewers, the zoning reviewer has to ensure the 6 foot right away. It's part of its review. You guys just need clarity with the doors open, and I'll provide that.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, so 1B, we don't really have street parking, or you have street parking in general. Looks like you guys went through, we're not providing any new parking other than bike parking. And you provided 2 additional spaces to bike parking?
Correct.
All right.
We have the 5%, looks like for sure 5%, right?
I think this is 100% open space plaza.
That's right. It's a separate thing. Yeah, I keep
This is
forgetting
separate than the building itself. We're 100%.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
Courtyard. So I think we hit that one too.
Good job.
Yeah, you guys nailed that one.
Well, at least I
Just look
got
at
something that the
linkages.
committee's 100% on.
Or you lead off your press statement with that. We are 100% approval on this as a courtyard. View shed corridors. That's a tough one.
Well, I think their punch out window is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's looking across the street to the historic Barrio Brewing patio space, which is pretty cool. You definitely got linkages going on through downtown. Considering you're right on 7th, you're on the right on, that's not in your control, but you are enhancing those streetscape areas, and we did shade. I think we were all okay on the shade. Maria, I don't think we even need to make it a formal comment on our end. You're going to ask that as part of your review to have that minor modification, because I think we're
yeah, I'm going to be asking Richard to resubmit the design package with the revisions to the shade study, plus the demonstrating on his design package that there's enough pedestrian clearance when the doors are open.
Right. Do we need to make those as formal recommendations on our motion if we make one here?
Yes, Mr. Stevie, members of the DRB, yeah, that's up to the DRB to include it as conditions if you would like to. But either way, I'm going to be requesting for that information.
Okay. Is this the end of our list? I think it is.
It is.
Shade's usually our grand finale, right?
Oh, God.
All right, new guy.
Okay. Well,
this is your hazing. So we have 2 conditions we want to add, right? I don't know if your experience, have you been on boards like this in the past?
No.
Okay. So typically the way the motion runs is we run the motion and says subject to the following conditions, and I would just add one. That the shade study is modified to show 12 p.m. I think our other condition was providing exterior lighting to the pedestrian walk-up areas and at exit doors.
Yeah.
And the third was to ensure that there's a 6-foot universally accessible route when all doors and openings are at their full extent.
Yeah, those are the 3 points, Chris.
Those
you
are
got
3.
it.
Any
Yeah,
other
that's
ones?
what I got on my notes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Other part is just being able to read halfway decently.
Okay, so I have to read this here. Is that
Yeah,
I
you have
do.
to read it.
We usually read it word for word, and then the conditions are
Okay.
freeform jazz.
Okay. Design Review Board has reviewed the applicant's project for compliance with Rio Nuevo area design criteria and recommends to the Planning and Development Services Director approval, finding the project in compliance with the building standards set forth in the UDC section 512.7C 1 through 15 and 512.7D, subject to the following conditions. The first being provide lighting at the pop-up window on the east facade of the fence. Second would to be clearly show the ample pedestrian access on the east entry and ingress area where the ramp and entrance to the patio exist when the doors are fully open. And then the third is to revise the sidewalk study for noon on September 21st.
Here, second.
I would like to clarify the wording for the east elevation egress ingress, that a 6-foot universal access path along the east elevation be clearly indicated.
Thank you.
Other than that, I second the motion.
Any discussion? Maria, did you capture that amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Let's bring this up to a vote. Favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Sounds like you guys made it through. A couple minor changes, but I think you guys were on those anyway. So
Excellent. That was the most rigorous review for smallest parcel I've had. So, and my earbuds were about to die, so we finished up just in time. I appreciate all of your input, and hopefully this is a good project.
yeah, we treat every project the same, whether it's a small patio or a giant big box store. So
Right?
they all get the same treatment.
Yeah, we like to be thorough.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Richard. I'll be
No,
in
thank
touch
you. I
with
think
you.
Thanks.
that's gonna be a good little addition to this this little space. I think
Yeah.
it'll be cool to see something happen that engages the street there. So thanks for bringing that, and keep your client happy.
Absolutely. Good day, everybody.
All right.
Richard, before you go,
Oh, he went.
oh,
We'll send them emails, Michael.
yeah, because based on what I was going to say is the discussion on the landscaping. There's a big chance that when he goes through the PRS review, somehow there's a likelihood that they may ask if he wants to go to the historic landscape subcommittee for the proposed trees and stuff like that. That's the only thing.
Really?
I said there's a possibility. They have done that on some projects because they have a member who is on the historic landscape subcommittee. There's a possibility that could happen. I am not saying that it will happen, but there's that possibility. I just wanted him to be aware.
There is a requirement to use plants that have historic context. Is that what you're saying, sir? I didn't quite understand what you said.
Yes.
Okay.
And the plans review subcommittee, once they have a project that has to do with landscaping and things like this, more often than not, they will ask the applicant to consult with the historic landscape subcommittee. I'm just telling him
So-
that there's a possibility that could happen. It's not required, but it could happen during the review.
So
But
Michael,
Maria,
even
yeah.
if those plantings are not part of the streetscape, they're inside the courtyard, they may still
Yeah,
ask for that.
this isn't in the right of way. I would assume that that review panel would be, it wouldn't be in their purview. But it's the
Yeah.
potential, right? You could still
Yeah.
get push there. But Carol, that historic landscape subcommittee isn't just about the plants being historic. It's about view sheds and historic context and streetscapes and basically everything landscape related. So skin of the building out. Kind of
Okay.
where they,
It's a historic view of
Yeah.
that whole package. Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't
Yes.
aware of that. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Chris.
Other than that, most of the historical issues were covered by the design professional. I don't have anything to add here. And I concur with what the design professional said for the historic things concerning the fence, the materials, the garage doors.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm not sure if Mr. Steve, are you still here?
I am, yeah. I'm just
Okay.
not on video right now.
And the other thing is the historic review process does not regulate the use of the property. So that is your domain. So they are not going to be worried about whether it's using it for the restaurant or anything. It's just about the design. That concludes my contribution for this morning. Thank you all.
I was going to jump to staff announcement, but Cade, since you,
Yeah.
Cade Hayes, right?
Yes, sir.
Right on. Why don't you introduce yourself, since we're just meeting you for the first time, and we made you do a motion on your first meeting.
Yeah, I like it. You throw me to the fire. Yeah, my name is Cade Hayes. I am an architect, part of one of the principals of Dust Architects. We're based downtown. I've lived in downtown basically my whole life. Right now on the west side, Menlo Park area. So maybe not technically downtown, but it's been, the heartbeat of my experience in Tucson since 2002. And so originally I grew up in southern New Mexico and went to school in West Texas. So kind of a desert dweller my whole life. And yeah, I'm just happy to be on your team and looking forward to learning, the other side of this, which today was a good start to that education. So I don't know if there's anything you want to ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, I'm a fan of the work your office does. So I think you're going to be a great addition to this board.
Nice, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. That was I'll give you a little background. I think I've been on this board for a few years now, and the way we went through that process is pretty typical. It seems like it takes over an hour, no matter what, even if it's a small patio, we just did a Bass Pro Shops. I think that took 2 meetings. So, and we dig into some stuff. There's definitely a lot of conversation. We check each other, make sure we're staying on track with what our purview really is and what we can direct a applicant to do, and what things we kind of get stuck on. You can tell shades usually our big grand finale of whether or not they have shade, and a lot of times that sends people sideways and they end up having to come back. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff we cover. You get to see what's going on downtown because it's really just the Rio Nuevo. But we do also Sunshine Mile all the way down Broadway, Grant Road's under our purview. We got a couple other sub districts too, Maria. I think, is it just those 2?
It's
RNA,
SMD, Gray. Yeah, and RNA plus like, the large retail establishments. That could be anywhere in the city. Also, people who rezone their properties to O1. The DRB has seen a couple of cases, at least while I'm being here. It needs to go through DRB for review. I'm sure there's other. The DDO and variance requests for modifications on landscaping and setbacks, and also appeals are also done that they need to be done. They need to be reviewed by the DRB. The DRB has reviewed in my time frame here one appeal for a historic home by A Mountain.
Okay.
So we get to see some fun stuff, and the big box store ones are a different list of criterion that we get to. Like those other sub districts have a different list than the Rio Nuevo one. Majority of the stuff's Rio Nuevo. But yeah, we get to see most things that happen downtown, and they can be tricky. Like this one it looked pretty straightforward right off the bat, and then you get into some of the little nuances of some of the spaces, and there's always some little tricky thing we seem to uncover by talking about it long enough, and that's kind of why we do a little longer journeys on them sometimes.
That was good to see today.
Yeah. So welcome. We'll give you we are still looking for some additional members, contractor specifically. So if you know any contractors around, Nate Kapler was on here before from Capcom. So that kind of person he was a really valuable member to this board. He was the chair for a long time, and so if you have any people like that cough, someone from Page Rep might be good to get in here if you know those dudes. But yeah, we're looking for that member. That's the missing piece right now. I think we're well represented otherwise.
Okay, good. Well, I'll talk to a few people I know.
Yeah, nice to have you on board.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And
any other announcements, Maria?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, I need to let you know that Jody Brown, our Historic Preservation Officer, has resigned. So while we try to find a new Historic Preservation Officer, I've been asked to help with historic preservation cases, and together with Michael Taku, and under the supervision of our planning administrator, Daniel Bursek. So we're hoping that this historic preservation officer can be secured sometime at the end of the year, hopefully. But that's something new. Michael, anything you need to add for that?
No, I think you summarized it all. Just we're the historic preservation team working with Maria, and as I said, we rely on your expertise as professionals to give us a lot of insight on projects that actually come in RNA downtown area, or even anything that will require you to make comment. It's always very helpful to us while we are discussing the project during the history review. As much as we are only interested, we do the history aspect of most of these projects. We also rely on your expertise on the design, because the history review process is about the design as well. So we always like that our recommendations to the director should kind of mirror or match with what you are thinking, so we're not giving the director two opposing recommendations where the director will be like, which one do I take? So But since Maria is working with you directly and in the historic district, I think we'll always come out with a compromise that will make projects better, that will serve the interests of the design review board in your design and also help the historic aspect of a lot of these projects that will come before you. This one is just a smaller project, but I am pretty sure, just like the chair said, you guys are going to be looking at much bigger projects than this.
Mhm.
And we're outreaching to the design professionals on board to help us with historic review as well, just like you saw today. So yeah, please spread the word for those who you think might be interested that position is gonna be open relatively soon. The other item I would like to bring your attention to is the contract with our design professionals ends December 31st. So we're gonna be issuing another RFQ and requesting, registered architects to file with the city and see if we can put them under contract for the review of cases like this and other cases. So keep that in mind. Spread the word. I'll let you know when that takes place. And in terms of case,
So Maria, one other thing too is in these historic preservation artists, we actually need someone with background in archaeology. So if you have anybody who has that kind of background that you know can actually help, or even in terms of a design professional or something like that, that is a kind of background that the city is actually looking for right now. In fact, we don't actually have it. We're supposed, as a certified local government, to have an archaeologist. Unfortunately, the city of Tucson does not have any. So
Wow.
if you know anybody with archaeological background, or a historian, architecture, or something like that, please spread the word that the city would like to make use of their services.
And
Thank
the
you.
city's in the process of, thank you, Michael. The city's in the process of drafting that job description. So when that comes out, I'll make sure to let the DRB know so you can help us spread the word. And in terms of cases, nothing has been formally submitted yet, but that can happen for the next DRB meeting, which is scheduled for October 4th. So we'll keep you posted. But one thing that I did mention at one previous meeting is the Fox Theater. It seems like, yeah, they're moving forward with, pursuing the demolition of the buildings that run along the Stone Avenue, which are contributors. So if they're successful with that for their expansion, then it's gonna be a project to be reviewed by the DRB. So that's one of the big projects that will come to your door sometime in the future. And that's all I have.
I'd say we probably need to reserve 2 meeting times for that one, Maria. That's gonna be quite the conversation.
maybe 3, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Well, we will be recommending a courtesy review, right?
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one. That would be a good one to get a courtesy front end.
Yeah. Yeah. So before it goes through the formal review process.
Yeah.
That one's going to be pretty hot. I think that's probably a fairly political project by this point also. So I think we probably need to request a courtesy review. That'd be awesome if you could arrange that, Maria.
Yeah, once they provide us with some materials. Yeah, I think right now they're trying to figure out their demo review process.
So this is going to be months off, you think, Maria?
I believe so.
Okay.
when we met with the applicant, we'll try to recommend that they should do a courtesy with anybody that is going to review that project. As much as it will be thrown into the political arena, we still want all of you and anybody that is involved to hear and advise the applicant as to what they think. It's going to be more of the historic issue when it comes up, no doubt. But the design component, what they are proposing to replace the structures that they will demolish, will be where your expertise and whatever thing you want to contribute will help a lot.
And the demolition includes the non-contributor at the very corner of Stone and Congress, which was the old Brugger's site. So yeah, it's an anchor point. So anyway, that'll be fun to review.
Nice.
They don't happen to make it all the way across the street and are taking down the really terrible blue building across the street, are they?
No.
Are they going to have the wrecking ball accidentally swing the wrong way 1 or 2 times? Would that be? Can I put that as a condition on a motion?
Mr. Chair, at least we have openings on that building. When they first built it, they had no openings of any kind.
Yeah, right. It used to be worse.
I think
that'll be an exciting review. I'm looking forward to that
fun.
one.
Yeah.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any topics discussion with the board? We're still under a quorum, so probably nothing. Since it's not on the agenda, if we're following Robert's rules. That was something we were going to look at from last meeting, Maria, was whether we need to do a motion for adjournment.
Yeah, Gabriel emailed the boards and commissions. As far as I know, he didn't hear back from them. He's out at the APA conference right now, so I'll make sure to touch bases with him again.
Well, I'm gonna stick with tradition and say that I'm allowed to adjourn a meeting. So there's no other business. We're adjourning this meeting at 9:24.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, as always, and welcome, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So Maria, what was I going to tell with you? I'm working on